I started sketching this pattern while I was sitting in church. I know. Looks super complicated when you're staring at it. Every angle comes cleanly together. Full half square triangles, full square. Hi friends, Tracy here from the Sewing Channel. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. I've created a brand new pattern just for you. It's my brand new pinwheel pile-up. It's a half square triangle illusion quilt. I know. I give you all the info in the pattern. All the colors that I used right here, I uploaded to my computer that I used in this quilt right here. So that way you would have a good idea of what colors you need to get to make this same quilt. This pattern is graphic heavy for sure. I give you a shared HST chart. I give you a full grid on how to put this thing all together, starting from one down and A across. I even break it down for you way further than that, friends. I put together 4 units. And I break it all down for color, number of pinwheel, you know, all the things, friends. All the colors are in here. You don't have to guess about anything. You'll definitely want to stay for the binding of my pinwheel pile-up illusion quilt. Why? Because these friends left these comments in my comment section about my binding technique. You don't want to miss a thing in today's tutorial. Enough talking already, let's go. Okay friends, let me show you how to make a half square triangle, or an HST for short. When making half square triangles, all you really have to remember is that whatever size you want your half square triangle to end up being, that you start with a little bit bigger of the 2 squares of the HST. Like you can see here, this half square triangle is already done and ready for my quilt. But look here, how much smaller this one is compared to that. So you always want to start off bigger. Uh-oh, I forgot which way this went up there. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that right there. And I will look at my chart later. This is the unit grid that I made up. Not only do I have a full-size grid for you with all the colors and the squares on where everything goes, I take it unit by unit. I've made it so simple for you friends. It's a no-fail quilt for sure. Okay, back to half square triangles. Take one of the squares, lay it down, take the other one and lay it right sides together. Then you're going to take a ruler and a pencil or whatever you have, whatever marking tool, and you're going to lay your ruler down. Now I'm right-handed, but I'll lay it left-handed here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to lay it corner to corner. I'm going to simply take my pencil and make a mark from corner to corner. Next, I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance from that marked line over, down one side and then up the other side. Now you can batch sew these too. So if I had another one to put in right away, I would just keep going, but since it's just this one, I'm gonna break thread and turn it around, and now I'm going to go up the other side. So hopefully you can see that. The mark line down the center, and then the stitch marks a 1/4 inch off of both sides. Then you're going to take your ruler, lay it corner to corner again, right on that drawn line that you made, and then you're going to simply slice that. And you're left with this. Next, you're going to press this to the dark side. So April, from April's Craft Room, she talked me into getting this Betty Steady, or Steady Betty, and I honestly do like it. What it does is it makes sure that you don't shift your fabric once it's down, and you can lay this on anything, your mat, anywhere, a wood table. Nothing is going to make it warp or do anything. I'm not sure what it's made of. So yeah, that's Steady Betty. She does pretty good. I will link this down below in my description box. Next, you're going to grab your squared ruler and you're going to trim it down to the size needed for the quilt. one dark fabric and one white fabric, one piece each, they make 2 HSTs. Now I do have short videos on my channel if you want to check them out on how to make bulk half square triangles. The technique's out there, just look it up. It's everywhere if you want to do it that way. But for me, I quite like making them 2 at a time. I don't know. How about you? Let me know in the comments. In order to make this grid on your design wall, or you can always put it on any wall really. The washi tape is not going to hurt the wall, or like a wood floor or a laminate floor, you can do that too. But the main thing is you have to have a grid if you want to be successful in putting this puzzle quilt together. So you can see all I've done is taken some washi tape and just separated enough so that one block fits there. We're going to call this Unit 1. Now Unit 1 is the top left of this quilt. There's 4 units, top left, top right, left bottom, right bottom. You can see here I've only gone as far as up to J along here because that's Unit 1 only goes to J, and Unit 1 goes from 1 to 12. I think, nope, it goes 13, and I did not put 13 on there. So now I took a minute and put 13 because there's actually 13 in Unit 1, so sorry about that. But we gotta have it right, friends. Now, since this is my pattern and I've made it up, I already have my piles of what goes in the rows, but I wanna share with you how to use this graph numbered and lettered system. I don't know what to call it. I'm gonna have to look it up to see what it's called. I used to do it in school, like where you would go, I think they do that with the times table, right? You go down here, find the number, and then come over here. That's what I remember it as, but I think it had to be for other things too, where you could find the actual point. I don't know, whatever that is, put it down in the comments. The first thing you're gonna do is find Unit 1 in the pattern, and you're gonna look and see, oh, what's 1A? And it's gonna tell you literally here, this is the quadrant, yours will look different on yours. This is just my hot mess. But in the pattern, it's nice and neat and perfectly done. So I'm gonna go up here, I'm gonna find A and 1, and it's gonna be that square. If I'm putting 13 and H, I'm gonna go across here and find H, and it's gonna be right here. So you're gonna go H, and 13 is gonna be that, which is just a white square here on mine. So that's all it is in order to get that going. I'm gonna just put that over there so I can see it, and then I'm gonna go 1A is going to be this, and I've put them in the direction, and if you take them off, you're going to have to take them off in the same direction when you sew them together, and I'll show you how I do that. So these, like I said, are in order, so yeah. Just because I had to get it all right for the video, I didn't want it to be a hot mess while I was showing you guys how to do it. I mean, this has taken a while to put this pattern together, but I know that you'll appreciate it. I know you will, because this is a super easy way to put this complex looking quilt together. And I'm just gonna double check that. And I'm gonna see all the way across here to J what I have, and yep, that's right. So far, so good, friends. Uh-oh. If you forget which orientation, just make sure that you have your paper next to you, because I just turned this block and I wasn't sure which way it went. So I'm gonna hold it like that so that I can remember. And then you're gonna see this come together once we get this unit up here. Now, even though I have different colored washi tape, you know, I ran out. That's why my colors are different. So you can have different colors. It's no big deal, because we're just going to tear it down and put it in the garbage later. So you can see here, this should be J. We'll go up, there's J. So J13 should be this white and charcoal kind of dark black gray half square triangle. 13 J. And this, coincidentally, is the center of this quilt, center-ish. Because I made everything wonky, even the big charcoal gray pinwheel that's in the background, it's a little offset. So that way, you know, it's the whole whimsy of it, right? Yeah. But again, if I was just grabbing this, I would look at my guide to make sure that I was in the right spot. 2A is going to be this. 2B should be a square that's this color. And so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and put these up now that you understand how this graph type coding, I don't know what else to call it, table? I don't know, they used to call it a times table. So this would be what? A letter number table? I don't know, friends, you tell me. I'm going to put the rest of this up and I'll turn the camera back on once I get it all up, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Hopefully you can see how some of this is coming together already just in Unit 1. So say I got mixed up and one was missing, you know, in the bunch. And I'm like, oh, wow, what's going on here? That's a little crazy. I can't figure out what goes there because, you know, it's kind of a puzzle here, right? So all I'm going to do is go, okay, that's in, you know, column E in 6. So I'm going to look up 6E on here. I'm going to go 6 and I'm going to go over here to E. And yep, wouldn't you know, it's a black square, right? It's super simple, friends. And then I would just pop that there. No worries though, in the pattern I have all of the suggested color ways and whatnot, and how many squares you need per color. So like this is one full pinwheel right here, and you can see how I already have this yellow one, which, yeah, this is one full, wait a minute, is that right? No, yeah, that's right. I had to double check there because this is the bottom of the yellow. You see how it's coming here and it's pointing down. It really gives such a cool illusion. But anyways, let me get back to this. So this is one full pinwheel here, and you can see how this yellow cuts into that. Well, it's really easy to mistake all that. It really is, friends, if you don't have this grid. You have to have the grid. I mean, it's like, you know, you have to. And hopefully you can make out here that this is the center top left of this unit. So this is the black pinwheel, and if you follow it, well, it's just the left top part of the pinwheel. If you follow it straight up there, there's another, all the way to the very tip. Yep, and you can tell that it comes along here and goes down here, and that is one big pinwheel. And all of the other pinwheels are layered on top. You can see I'm super excited about this quilt. One of the easiest things about this quilt is that I made all of it a square or half square triangle. That's it. When I first started to design this quilt, I had these types of blocks, and I call these tulip blocks because I don't know what else to call them. Where it comes, it's just a half square triangle, and then this piece you would sew on there, making it like that, like almost like a tulip shape, doesn't it? That's what it reminds me of, like a tulip. I don't know why. But anyways, this would have been making cross sections. Like if I were to cut something in through this way, I would have to totally cut into that half square triangle. After I did a few of these, I thought, you know what? No, I want to make it even simpler than that. That's why I ditched this idea right here and made sure that every angle that you have on this grid comes cleanly together. You have full half square triangles and full squares. That's what makes it super simple, but yet looks super complicated when you're staring at it. This one was so much fun, friends. Now it's time to sew these rows together. We're going to finish each unit one at a time. And in the end, we're going to have 4 units that we can sew unit 1 and 2 together and 3 and 4 together, and then sew the bottom half to the top half and yada, 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 right? First, we need to get these down in order. Friends, do not mix these up once you have them in order. It is so easy to switch this to that and not even realize it. Trust me. So what I want you to do is make these little Post-it notes, and I made each one of my units a different color Post-it note. I put unit 1, row 1. So this has a sticky on it, but also I'm going to add a little glue on it, on the back of it, because it's just washable glue and, you know, it'll come out. No big deal. So I'm going to first come up here and I'm going to grab the first one here in row 1, because we need to sew these together, right, friends? So I'm going to glue that on there like that, and I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to line them up directly on top of each other, and do not mess up the orientation. Keep this half square triangle just like that, the red over here and the white up there, and just keep layering them together just like so. Keep the orientation. And the way I know that it's the right orientation is when I put this sticky note on here that says unit 1, row 1, I already have it in reading orientation, so I know that that's up and down the right way to sew these together. This is going to help because I'll know how to sew these together once I get to the sewing machine. And I'll show you that right after I get all these back into the little piles that they were first in. But, you know, I had to show you all this, you know. It's a lot of work to do these videos, friends, right? Oh, and the other thing, make sure that you clip these. This is another added protection there. So if this by chance falls on the floor, you're not going to be a hot mess like I was in the making of this quilt. Or the making of the pattern, I should say. So there's unit 1, row 1, and now we need to so on and so forth, do unit 1, row 2. I'm gonna get my glue, boom, on the back. I'm just gonna leave that glue open. Sticky it there, and then just continue on, keeping all orientation proper. Grab my clip, and it's all clipped. I won't show you this part, but I'm going to clip these all in the correct rows, and then I'll meet you back at my sewing machine here in a second. So here we have unit 1 and row 1. So I'm going to go ahead and unclip that, and I'm going to go ahead and leave that glued piece of paper on there. I mean, it's on there pretty good. It's not going to go anywhere. And that's going to help me remember that, you know what, this is the first one in the row. So this is always going to be A per se, or no, yeah, A. Like A1 for this particular one anyways. So you just have to make sure that whenever you're adhering these, that you are putting them in the correct orientation. So you want this facing up and down how it came off of this pile. And what I'm going to do is, since this is right side, make sure that it is right side. I could just see me not putting right sides together. So then I'm going to just lift this first one up and over and put right sides together. And I'm going to sew that side. Keep those over here in the correct orientation too, to make sure that you're not messing anything up. And you're just going to do a simple, you know, scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. We put those two together, we sew down there, open that back up, then we're just going to grab the next one, keeping it in that same orientation. Although it's just a, you know, background square, but still, got to maintain it, friends. And now we're going to sew right down that side. And then I'm going to open this up. I'm not worrying about finger pressing or anything. You could if you want, but I'm just wanting to get this row together. Pull this one down, flip it over. Now I know that there are more efficient ways to sew, like within columns and rows, but for this particular quilt, I really don't want you to utilize anything, you know, like that. Like how they do the webbing, where you would put like sew in columns and then in rows and, you know, all that. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. Don't do that, because this is just going to be easier for us to do our row 1. Flip this over. Open her up, bring this one down. Open it up. I'm going to actually bring this pile over here, and I can move this freely in front of me. Lay that down, right sides together. Keep this same orientation, bring it over, right sides together. Now what I want you to do is take this over to your pressing station. Now here's the thing. Whichever way that you start to press row number 1, say you turn it over and you're just like gonna press it all this way, or you're gonna press it all this way. It doesn't matter which way you start to press it. So if you press it all this way, make sure, friends, in row number 2 that you press them in the opposite direction. That way, all of your seams are gonna nest, and it's just gonna be just a gloriously flat quilt, okay? And that's all there is to that. So go ahead and finish up those rows, and we'll take a look at it and see how it looks after it's all pressed and all the rows are done. Okay, friends, I have all of the rows in Unit 1 all sewn together. And remember, I left this on here because this is going to help me when I go to sew these together to make sure that, you know, my rows are going from row 1, 2, 3, and so on. It's super easy to get half square triangles and squares mixed up. And this particular pattern, we want to go together precisely perfectly. Follow these tips and tricks that I'm showing you here to keep straight in this quilt. Next up, I'm going to sew all these together, and then I will show you what Unit 1 looks like when it's all done. So I've grabbed 1 and 2, and I'm going to make sure that everything is going in the right direction. And I'm going to put some pins in. I don't want those pins, I want these ones. My favorite pins. So I'm going to simply nest these together. Remember, we set ourselves up for success with the nesting. Once we have it nested, then we're going to pin. And this is going to make sure that we have all of our points matching up. All of these intersections are going to be nice and together. Ow, and don't pin yourself, friends, like I just did. Oh my goodness. And if you sewed a consistent seam allowance, then you should definitely have everything matching up pretty good at this point. And when I get to the end there, I'm just going to come in off to the side here like so to make sure that when I'm sewing that, I'm going to get nice and even and nothing's going to shift on me. I still have my stickers on there though, because I am not going to give those up just yet. Now for this one, as far as the pressing goes, once you open it up, you can just press everything down or up from this point on, but pick one side or the other, because the next unit that's to the right of this, which is going to be unit 2, you're going to press in the opposite direction, because when we go to sew these two together, we want those seams to nest, and so on and so forth. So whatever you do one way, do it all that way, and then the next unit the opposite. So that way everything is nesting beautifully. So there's that so far. I'm going to do the rest and then I'll turn my camera back on. Okay friends, here is unit 1 all sewn up. So now I think it is safe that we can take these all off. Now if there's any residue left over, you know, on the fabric here from that stick glue, it'll come out in the wash. No worries, friends. It's just washable stick glue. And look, I got some paper on there. Oh, I don't know. That might not come out, though. The yellow, I don't know. I think it'll come out. I don't know. We'll make sure we put a color catcher, though, in with this wash. Because of all the bright, saturated colors in here, we're definitely going to have to use a catcher. You know, one of them color catchers anyways, so yeah. What do y'all think? That's looking so good. Oh my goodness. And you know, of course, this orange pinwheel is going to go down into unit 3. And this orange one will be in unit 2. Same with the red. The red one's really big. Probably just as big as this yellow one here. But yeah. So anyways, that's unit 1. So you're just going to do unit 2, unit 3, and unit 4 all the same way that you did this one. And then you're going to have unit 1 here, unit 2 there, unit 3, and unit 4. And then you just sew them all together, you know, like one big 4-patch. And that's all there is to that. I promised you some tips earlier in the video, so I'm going to give you some tips on how to work this grid. Now, I know that I already have some of these up and with those stickies on them, and that's just the way it is. I have the stickies on there already, and I'm not going to take them off until they're all sewn together. But I wanted to share with you how to go about putting them up within the unit itself, like in real time. One of the tips I can give you, don't mind this one over here. This is unit 4. We are working on unit 3 right here, unit 3. Now unit 3 goes from A to J and it starts at 14 because unit 3 is bottom left, just to give you a reference of where that falls on the quilt. The first thing I did was take all of my white squares and put them up here, all of my dark squares and put them up here, and then any half square triangles that I had to put up here. And I see I took one out from earlier. Let me find it on here. So it says here that the other half square triangle in this unit goes 20E, and it goes in this orientation. Now this is really important to have this grid in front of you. It's going to save you a lot of time and energy on figuring out, does it go like this? Does it go like this? Does it go like this? How does it go, right? When I look at here, it's going to fall in this direction. So 20E. So I'm going to find 20 and then E, and I'm going to come down and it's going to go boom right there. And just for reference too, this is the center of the big dark pinwheel. So it's top right in this unit because this is the bottom left quadrant. You can see that in the black and white, I only have 2 HSTs in this whole quadrant. because the rest is covered in layered pinwheels. Okay, next I just grab a color from my color pile of, you know, like you've cut out all of your squares and your HSTs and any shared colors like the blue and, let me see here, the blue and the green, like right here. So that's a shared pinwheel color. So I just pulled everything that had the green and whatever color was connected to it. And I already had these set aside because I did all my cutting ahead of time. And you probably should too. Do all of your cutting and then come to your board and, you know, grab your pile of greens and then so on and so forth. You're going to fill it in, just like coloring, right? This one I already have marked as Unit 3, Row 20. And I already know that it's going to be an A, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it right here. And it's in the direction. Since my green one is down here, I'm just going to fill in all of my green and see where I'm at. So a square goes in 20B and 20C. So I'm going to go 20B and 20C. And I already have this one marked, but that's okay. Row 25, and we know that all my markings are A. All right, I have a square here, and it's going to, let's see, it's going to go 21C. 21C, right here. Another square, 22E. 22, and can't see sideways, E, 22, right there. Now I have a half square triangle in my pile, and I see that I need one. I've already got one there in 20. Do I have one in 21B? I do not, so I need one right here. So the orientation says, when I look at it in my grid, it's going to go like this. And I'm just going to pop it in there, just like so. Next, I have a square here. It's going to go row 24. So we'll just go ahead and pop that there. Ooh, I got a blue and a green one. So I'm just going to look, and I have a few blue and green ones. So I'm just going to look here and see what's the first one I see on the grid is 23C, and I'm going to get the orientation already, so 23C, and it's going to be there. And I got a green one. Let's see, where else am I missing here? 23A. No. See, this one goes in 23A because it's got my sticker on it. But 23B is another square, and so there's that. Uh-oh, another blue and green one. What do we got here? Let's see. We did 23. Okay, let's do 24B, and I'm going to go ahead and get the orientation all set up in front of me, so then all I got to do is go 24B and go right there. All right, I got another green one, 24D. 24D right here. Another blue and green one. So let's see. We did that. Let's go 23D. Let me get the orientation. It's like so. 23D. 23D. Ooh, right there. I got another blue and green one. 24E. Get the orientation correct. And go 24E. Ooh, I got a white and a green one now. So I know that a white and green one goes, let's see, 21B. Did I get that already? Yeah, no. Yeah, I already got 21B. So 22C. And I'm going to get my orientation correct before I even go near this board. So 22C. And it's going to go, and you can tell here that this is going to be the pinwheel center of this pinwheel. We have another green and white. 22D. Get the orientation correct. It's going to go right there, right? Yep. I have a solid green one here, 25D, 25 and D, right there. I don't know how that blue one got stuck in there, but we'll find a spot for that. Another white and green. Let's go 25F. Get your orientation correct. F, 25, right there. I have another green one here in the square. 25E. 25E. Now we only have one that's on our grid where it combines pink and green together. It's a shared pinwheel color. And let's see where that one goes. It's looking like 21E, and I'm going to put it in the correct orientation. 21E, right there. And just for GP, this one's already in my hand. I'm just gonna stick it there. So you can see that I'm gonna step back. We got the green all on there, and that's the bottom left of this quilt. And then you would just so on and so forth. You would grab, there's a purple one in here and a pink one, some red, and some from unit 1 creeps in. So you have a few things going on here. So then you would just fill those in, just like you saw me do with the green, and then you would sew them just like you saw me earlier with grid 1. Are you getting the picture of how easy this is? I hope so. Okay, friends, I was not going to turn my camera back on for the rest of this, but I'm going to because I made a mistake in the last segment. I actually had this one, I believe, over here, and it should have been here. And to my defense, I was looking sideways at this board, and you know, I wear glasses, so there's no telling what happened, right? But anyways, it goes here, not over here or here. I forget now where I put it. But this is what it looks like when it's all done in unit 3. So now that I have this all up on my board and everything is, you know, looking great, nothing missing, the grid matches this, that's when I come in and I would put the stickers on here. I already had the stickers on because I'm showing you, you know, afterward, kind of backwards, but that's all right. It's, you know what I mean, right? So then I'm just going to come up and I'm going to grab them all like this, keeping that orientation correct and keeping the sticker on top of that row, because that's going to tell me which row it is, and that's going to help us out later. And then I'm going to grab the clip again, and I'm going to clip these together. They aren't going anywhere, friends. So that's what you do to keep yourself organized with this type of quilt. All right, friends, I got to get to sewing because I need to get a video out, man. I'll tell you what, YouTube is killing me. Since I haven't really been putting videos out, yeah, it's, you know, the money goes down, the views go down, everything goes down. So do me a favor, hit the subscribe and like and all that, and share it on your, you know, social media platforms. That will give my channel just a tad bit of a boost. I don't know. Might work, might not. It should work. All right, friends, let's get this quilt done. Once you have all 4 units all sewn up, then it's time to connect them together. Connect unit 1 to unit 2, unit 3 to 4, and then the top to the bottom half. I just loved seeing how this was coming together. I was super excited at this point, friends. Once it's all sewn up, then it's time, of course, to put borders on. Now, when I first started designing this quilt, I did not think of borders, and I don't typically when I first start with a quilt designing it, but I decided that a nice, thin, you know, skinny white border within the background fabric, same as the inside the quilt, would look really nice on this, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm just attaching one side, pressing, and then the opposite side, and then the other 2 sides. And then, friends, I decided to add these HSTs all around this quilt. Look at how cute this looks. Now, this was a little hard when it came to math. It took me a few tries to get it right on the money because I wanted each corner to look like it had 3 sprays of the pinwheels coming out of it. Next, it was time to sandwich the quilt layers together, which I did here, as you can see. I had a huge hiccup though. I ordered this plush batting by the Warm Company. I thought, ooh, it sounds plushy, right? It was all cotton scrim. There was absolutely no polyester in it, which really that was a win for me. You see, I thought it would make my quilting look puffier, but it absolutely did not. It looked flat, just like it usually does when you use cotton, which is okay. The hardest thing using this batting was the weight of it. I struggled, friends. I struggled pushing this through my domestic home sewing machine, even with the hooks on my ceiling and holding my sides of my quilt up while I free motion quilted. I struggled. I was out of breath each session. No lie. Now, I'm not down in this totally. Now, if you're a long armor, if you're going to send it off to your long armor, totally, you could get the plush if you like a heavier type quilt. But if you're on your home domestic sewing machine, this is a hard no for me. I always love showing you the setup for my free motion quilting. My sewing machine, Juki, from Juki Junkies, it's on its side. I have all the links down in my info box if you want to check them out. Using my links only helps my channel for sure. You can see the hooks in the ceiling. There, my husband calls them meat hooks. He came home one day and they were just like there, and he was just dying laughing. They are just binder clips on the opposite end of those twill tapes holding up the sides of my quilt. Now, this helps with drag big time, but with this quilt, it barely helped with drag because the quilt sandwich itself was so heavy. I mean, friends, heavy. To be honest with you, it even like altered my free motion quilting skills for real. But we got through it, friends. We did. Okay, on to the design of the free motion quilting. I decided on swirls in every single colored pinwheel. And I decided on, for the black and the background, to do just a simple meander. I wanted it set apart. I mean, I'm not that great at free motion quilting and designing, like perfectly, but I get through it for the basicness of it. I always get questions. My number one question on free motion quilting is, where do you start on your quilt? Well, I start in the center of the quilt and then I'll go to one side. Well, I'll do like about maybe 10 inches or so, like up and down on a quilt. And then I'll take that 10 inches in width over all the way to the side. And then I'll break thread. And then I'll go back to the center. And then I'll take that 10-inch in width and then do the other side of the quilt. And then I'll go to the bottom. And then for some reason, I always go to the top last. I don't know, because I'm thinking, oh, yeah, more eyes are going to go to the top of the quilt and I'll have my groove by then, right? I don't know. My thinking might be off. I don't know. Another question is, how long does it take you to do a quilt this size? Well, this is my normal quilt size typically, and typically it takes about 3 to 4 hours in total time spent free motion quilting this quilt. I break that up though over about a 3-day period. So here's a closer look of this area in full here of what I was just free motion quilting, and here's a shot of the back. Check out that back fabric. Oh, it's so cute. When trimming a quilt sandwich, I always start with the corners first. Make sure that everything is spread out nice and flat. The first corner, I line it up to see where I'm at and see how much of a line and where it's at on that inner border where the HSTs are. And I see here that I'm going to need to measure a 1/4 inch gap from the seam, and that's what I'm going to go on from this. And once I have that with the even around the corner, I then make the cut. Now for the next corner, I'm going to do the same thing. When I lay the ruler down, I'm going to look for that 1/4 inch gap coming from the seam that I'm measuring from, but I'm looking on both sides of that ruler to make sure that I'm pretty much squared. Now I have all my corners done. It's time to start one of the sides, and this is how I do it. I keep one squared ruler up on a corner, then I lay my longer ruler down. Now I'm still looking for that 1/4 inch away from that HST border that I have here. That's what I'm pointing at. And I want to stay in there somewhere. Now, it's not going to be perfect, I'm sure. And it's never always just right on. But you want to make sure that you get it balanced out enough. And you don't want to cut your points off for sure on those edges of your HSTs, because those will definitely show up. And you just kind of do that all the way down, and then with that squared other end, you just line up along that straight line, and then you just trim it. Here I have my binding, and I cut this binding at 2 3/4 inches. Regular binding typically is about 2.5. Sometimes I like to go to 3 most of the time. 3 inches in width is what I mean. So this one is 2 3/4. So hopefully you can see there. The reason why I did not go my typical 3-inch in width is because of this area right here. Typically it takes a 1/4 inch of fold over to cover up to make sure that your point here, since we did the half square triangles all along the edge and they look like pinwheels going all the way around, that area right there is for the seam allowance, the 1/4 inch. So that's why I went 2 3/4, because if I went too thick in width, it would cover up this area and it would look like I cut off my points. And I definitely don't want that on this quilt. If I went 2.5 inches in width on this quilt for the binding, you see how thick this is? I would not be able to fold that over and make a nice fold over. I know it, because this was so thick and so unruly going through, well, free motion quilting, that it just, no. It needed to be a 1/4 inch more to help me get that up and over the fold. So that's the reasoning behind my binding width. Now, typically in my videos, I like to show you how easy it is to bind your quilt, miter the corners on your quilt binding, and to connect the binding tails at the end. And this video is no different. I'm going to show you, so stick around if you need to know. I want you to measure about 15 inches, from 1 to 15 inches on the end of that binding tail, which is about right here. This is what you're going to leave hanging when you start. So I'm going to lay my bind right here. It's folded. You see it's folded once there, and then the raw edges are connected here, because I want to connect it here first and then fold it over to the front. So that 15 inches, we're just going to leave hanging here, and we're just going to let it, hang out until we get around to the other side, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to connect this binding. So simple, friends. First and foremost, we need to get this binding on the back. And I'm just going to shove this binding back here behind my sewing bed so I can just kind of pull. So that way it's not on my floor. Sometimes I get tangled up when I'm on my floor with this. So I'm simply going to just start, and I'm going to back stitch right there. So that holds that. Lay everything nice, and remember I have this back here. So it's that 15 inches. It's just hanging out. We back stitch. Friends, this quilt is even hard to push underneath to put the binding on the back because it's so heavy and just cumbersome. Yeah, I probably won't ever use this batting again, for sure, because I can barely push it through. This one gave me a workout. I literally have to pull from the back here. I have to grab this and tug to get this under here. Oh my goodness. Usually check too. That's another tip for you. I usually stop, but usually sooner on, and just to see what that's going to be like when I fold that over. And you know what? I think I need to make a bigger bite. I do. I think I need to do a true 1/4 inch, friends. So I'm just going to break thread. Hey, this is what I do. It's real life quilting for me. So I didn't go that far, so I'm just going to come in. I'm not even going to take that out. I'm just going to go back in. And I'm going to take a bigger bite so that there'll be more take up here on the back and a little bit less on the front. I do typically a scant 1/4 inch. That's why it always ends up like that. But if I do a real 1/4 inch, like it would be like here. Wow, that's a big difference. I'm going to start, go back. Now let's take a look at that. Hopefully you can see. When I fold that over, yeah, that's going to be right at that point area, and that's what I want. Yep. Okay, let's continue on. When you're sewing up to this corner and connecting all these layers together, you want to stop at your full 1/4 inch. Whatever you're using here in the seam allowance to anchor this down is where you want to stop away from this edge right here. So since I'm taking a pretty fat 1/4 inch here, I'm going to stop about, right there within the seam line, because you want to stay within, where it's coming down. And so probably right there. Usually I stop at about a scant before, but not today because I'm a little thicker. So let's see if I can gauge that. Yeah, that looks good. So then you're going to lift your presser foot, turn the corner so that this is pointing right at you. Lay that back down, put your presser foot back down. Oh, you know what? Maybe I should come one more stitch. Let me come one more stitch. Looks like, I don't know. Let me go one more stitch. Okay. So then you're going to lay that back down, drop your presser foot, and then you're going to sew right off the edge. Hopefully you can see that. Come down and there, right off the edge. See? Just like that. Next, you're going to take this tail, lift up and over like that, and you're going to keep it nice and straight. This is key when doing your binding. You want this right across there like that, nice and straight. And you've already, sewn in your angle there, so it's going straight down when you pull on it. Well, not pull on it, but so straight there. You're going to put your finger right here, and then you're going to take the other end of this tail here. You're going to anchor this down with these 2 fingers. Pull this over this way so that you're folding it back onto itself. You're going to line this fold up with this right here, the edge of this side. So that fold goes there, just like so, and then you can take your other fingers out of there and then hold on top. See how that's together there? So that's folded, and then these are the raw edges. And then you want to make sure that this part right here, this is another important step, friends. Pull this over and make sure that this is straight along your raw edge of your quilt top. Hold that there or clip it. I'm going to grab a clip here, and I'm just going to clip the end of that. So that's holding that for me. See that? And then this is straight all along here. Nice, nice. And then you're going to pivot your entire quilt, because now we're going to go along this side of the quilt. Make sure that everything is nice and straight. Lay it down, lift up, and you can take out that clip. And you're going to start right on the edge, right on where that fold is. You're just going to come right up on. You can start a little after that to get you started if you need to. But I'm going to take that fat 1/4 inch again. And I am going to back stitch because that's just what I do. And you're just going to continue on. And you're going to do the same thing on all 4 corners. Just be consistent all the way around. You can see here what this looks like. When you go to fold this over to the other side, and I'll show you all that too, but I just want to give you a sneak peek. When you flip this like that, you want to make sure that that corner is fully pressed into this corner here, because that's going to fill that out. And then when you finally go to fold this, which I'm still underneath my needle here, so hopefully I can do this. You want to make sure that you fold it so that this fold here on this side is facing that way and the other fold is facing the other direction. Now, why do we do that? Well, we do that because you can have a bunch of bulk in your corner, and this is how you're going to fold those. You're going to go up and over, taut, but not too tight. And you can see here, this right here. You want to make sure that this is fully engaged down into this little ditch. And then hold it here. I'm going to hold it with this finger like that. And then I'm going to fold that over. And I'm going to make sure that it's right along that edge. And when you do that, friends, I have not cut this video at all. Look at this. That is a perfect miter. Every single time. Every single time, friends. So yeah, so there's that. So let me finish this all the way around, and I'm going to share with you how to do the easiest connection on binding. Okay, this is where we started. When we started sewing, there's my double line. I ended up having to sew a little bit closer as I was ending. I don't know, I must have got complacent and just started going back to normal, but like I usually do. But anyways, so this is the end tail right here, and we did back stitch right here. The important thing that you need to note when you are ending this binding, and it's really the most important, the width that you cut your binding, that's the measurement that you got to keep in your head. Remember, this was 2 3/4 in width. So that's the number. The first thing, though, is to find the center of this area right here, between where you started and you stopped your binding. And mind you, it's still folded. Everything's just like it was. This is my center right here. I'm going to lay this bind down right there. And then I'm going to lift that up a little bit there. And then I'm going to just cut that bind straight. Just cut it. It's cut. Just toss that in your scrap bin. Now, this is laying nice. Just make sure that you know, with your hands, everything is laying nice and flat, taut but not tight. And then you're going to bring this one over, and you're going to lay this right on top of that one. You can see it right there. There's the edge of it. I will lay my ruler down there so you can see. That is the edge of where this one ends. So what you want to do is you want to go from here 2 3/4 inches over. Because remember, that was the number of the width of our binding. No matter what your width is, if it's 3" in width, you're going to go all the way to 3. If it's 2" in width, you're going to go to 2 for this. So this is the edge. Now I'm going to come over here. It starts right there. And I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3/4 is right here. See? 1, it's right there on the edge, 1, 2, and 3/4 over. So 2 3/4, which is right here. So if I lay this nice taut but not tight, and then I lift my pen up, that right there. That is where I'm going to cut this side. Don't be scared, just cut it. Cut it straight though if you can, and toss that in your scrap bin. The next step, you are going to open this bind up, this fold, open that up, and then you're going to lay that like that. But first, oh, I almost forgot. We're going to cinch this here to get that gap out of there, or we're going to get all that slack out, and we are going to clip that. So that first. Okay. Then we're going to open this up. You can see it's just open, and then we're going to lay it just flat like that. Then we're going to open this bind right here. We're going to open it up. Look, it ended on that. Ended right where I put it together. Oh, well, it happens. What are you going to do? You're going to open this up just like so. We opened it, and then we are going to lay it flat right there. And we're going to line this raw edge up against this raw edge here. And then that one right there. And you might want to get your pins. I would pop a pin right there in that corner, and then pop a pin in here somewhere. Let me just see something. Took that pin out because I wanted to show you. I'm going to mark this corner from here to here, straight over, from the corner of this one that's laying here that you see the wrong side of, all the way over to where that corner starts here, right there, okay? And when I do that, I'm just going to take this pin and put that right in the center. So this is going to mimic my stitch line, right? And a lot of times I'll test myself just to make sure I got it in the right orientation. So then, say I sewed that right there, because you're going to sew from corner to corner on the line that you draw. So when you open it up, look at there. That's going to be a beautiful miter. Okay, so I'm in the right orientation. I just wanted to show you that because a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes I'll sew it and it will be in the wrong orientation. Yes, I know. And it kind of stinks that those two seams are going to be right next to each other, but you know, whatever. Okay. Let me make the mark on top so you can see it. It's right there. I'm just going to bring that mark up here where that corner is. It's right there. And then, of course, there's that one right there. Make sure everything is laying nice and flat. And you may want to do it without the pins in there. It's up to you. But I'm just going to draw this line. And I'm upside down. Okay. So there's the line. I'm going to sew directly on that line. And I'll be right back and I'll show you. So I just sewed this over there. I didn't take anything out because I wanted us to look at it together. I'm going to unclip this, and then I'm going to take my pins out. I don't know if you can see the stitches. There, you can probably see them better there. I'm going to take my pins out, and I'm just going to test it at first. You see I haven't cut out any of that yet. What I want to do is just now lay the side of my quilt nice and flat. And I want to see when I do that, is it taut but not tight? Is there a big gap in it? If you have a gap, too much of a gap in here, then you may need to go in and tighten that stitch up, which means closer to the binding so that you have more cut off. Maybe you didn't measure it, just sew and whatnot. But this one's going to be good. And if it's too tight, you know, it's okay. You can fix that. Just unpick and loosen it up a little. You may have less seam allowance in the end, but that's okay. I think we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and cut the seam allowance off. And you want to leave, you know, your 1/4 inch. Press the seam allowance open. So I'm going to put Steady Betty right there because with Steady Betty you can totally press on any surface, wood, cutting mat, anything. That's how steady she is and how good she is. I'm starting to really like her. I'll link her below. So what I'm going to do is open up that seam allowance. Oh, that so stinks, right? Oh my goodness. I want to get a good press on that. Press that open, and then you're going to fold like so, and then you're going to press, you know, just like you did when you first made your binding. Now, all we're going to do is take it to the sewing machine, and then we're going to finish sewing our fat 1/4 inch all the way until we get to there. Now, after I do that, I want to show you, my next tip that I want to give you is after you have sewn that closed up, you know, your binding's all closed, you're then going to flip this up, and you are definitely going to give this just a little bit of a nudge this way. This is going to be a game changer, friends, because this will help that bind to go up and over. And it doesn't matter if you used, you know, thick batting or not, like I did this time. I would still not miss this step. Oh, there's our opening. So let me skip that because I got to sew it shut yet. But it's going to work. It's going to be good. So I'm going to flip that up. and over, just like that. Just a little bit. We're not spending all day here. We're just up and over. That's just going to give us that extra little bit that we need at the sewing machine, so we're not fighting with it. I hate fighting with thread and fabric, so that's going to help, friends. And then all you would do after that, after you've closed that up and you've done your binding, you know, like this, you've pressed it over, you're then going to just, move this out of the way, you're going to take this and just make sure all your stragglers are down there, all your thread. You're going to go up and over, and then you're going to simply sew right on that yellow, right on the edge, all the way around. Okay, friends, here it is, my final reveal. Yeah, it is totally an illusion, exactly what I aimed to do when I started out with this pattern. I started sketching this pattern while I was sitting in church. I know. But that's how it happened, friends. I was sketching it out and thinking, oh yeah, if we could overlay this and overlay that and how that would look. So yeah, that's the story behind this quilt. Was it God inspired? Maybe. I don't know. But anyways, friends, this is it, and I couldn't be more proud of it. This is probably the most technical looking quilt that I've ever designed, but yet so simple that probably my granddaughter Josephine and Julia could totally put it together. Well, with Mimi's help, of course, right? So there's only one thing that I would do totally different, and it is going to be this seam right here. You see it? Yeah, I mean, the seam needs to be there because I had to miter those two pieces of fabric together, but I would have used white batting. So that's just, you know, a good thing to look at when you're planning out your quilt and whatnot. The batting that I bought, the heavy batting, it was only in the cream color, and it's what I had, you know, what I ordered, so I just used it. I didn't really think about it, to be honest with you, but this is reason right here to always think about your, you know, the shade of your batting and how light you want your quilt to look and whatnot. So yeah, that's the back. So I turned off the lighting so you could actually see some of the quilting on the back. And that's mostly where you're going to see it at. You're not going to, you know, on some of the pinwheels on the front, you'll totally see them, but yeah. So all my swirls, I call them squirrels, squirrels, S-Q-U-A-W-R-L-S, because they're kind of like swirls and squares because of the jerking that happened with this quilt from the drag. So anyways, but yeah, that's the back. Until next time on the Sewing Channel, I love you and take care.